Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome back to my Saturday Hodgepodge, my weekly wrap-up of reading, booktube, bookish things, whatever I want to talk about. This week's will be even shorter because this is the second time I'm shooting this video. So this one will be shorter than my average Hodgepodge video. I have a feeling I almost never reshoot Saturday Hodgepodge videos, and I try not to edit them very much. But there was just an issue with this one, and I had to do it. I had to edit this one, or to start all over again. So that's what I'm doing. Today is Juneteenth, June the 19th, and it is a day which President Biden just declared to be a federal holiday in honor of the proclamation of the end of slavery, which took place in Galveston, Texas, on this date in 1865. The reason why Juneteenth is an appropriate day to celebrate the end of slavery in the United States is because Texas, being the most remote of the 11 Confederate states and the one in which the Union had made the least incursions, was the last state in which the new laws against slavery were enforced and proclaimed. And so it's Texas that sees the actual end of slavery, and that announcement by General Granger in Galveston on this date in 1865 is the day in which slavery then finally came to an end. With the exception of some Native American territories, but finally came to an end in the United States. And I was shocked to find that there was some controversy. Some people who were convinced that this was just a terrible thing that was going to distract from July the 4th, that it was a holiday which celebrated or would create disunity rather than unity. And I have to be honest with you, it's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Clearly these people are just enraged by the fake controversy surrounding critical race theory. And they're just decided to get mad about this. What is more important to celebrate than the day in which the United States finally ended slavery? What's referred to as kind of the original sin of American history. What could possibly be more appropriate to celebrate than that day? Not just for African Americans, but for everybody, because it's just an important day in which the United States finally moved beyond this horrible cruel institution which we had instituted for economic reasons and had abused and shortened and destroyed the lives of literally millions of people from Africa and African Americans. So it is well worth celebrating for all Americans. So I think, Americans, white, black, and everything else should celebrate Juneteenth as an important day in which the United States moves forward. White people should be comfortable celebrating Juneteenth. Celebrating it but not appropriating it. And one of the things that I've heard a number of people say in defense of the Juneteenth holiday coming up is it's the day in which slaves were freed, in which the North freed the slaves. And the implication is then that white people alone freed the slaves. And that's not true. I have a whole video about it. If I can figure out how, I'll put a card up here. But you should know that ending slavery in the United States was a cooperative effort between African Americans and white Americans and others to bring slavery to an end, and it is well worth celebrating. So this week I actually finished a book. I finished Rose Allatini's Despised and Rejected as a part of my Pride Reading Month. For this month I read Allatini's book, and it was just amazing. It essentially tells the story of two main characters, one of whom is a gay man and one of whom is a lesbian or a bisexual woman, and their struggles in the 19-teens to come to grips with how they're going to live their lives and whether or not they're going to conform. And on top of all that, dealing with World War I and the issues surrounding pacifism and whether or not to participate in World War I as a combatant, as a non-combatant, as somebody working in a war industry. All those issues are brought together here. Now, the book does spend a lot of time, pay a lot of attention to the pacifist movement. It is clearly, it's clear that Allatini supported the pacifist position during World War I and afterwards. And there's a lot in there about it. In fact, one of the few flaws I really find in it is that occasionally it's a little bit preachy about pacifism. Not that I'm disagreeing with the message, but more that it just feels like in a novel that, she made space for people to give speeches in favor of the pacifist position. But what's extraordinary to me is how frank and direct a view into the lives of LGBTQ people during this time period this gives. Trying to come to grips with how society views them, kind of trying to come to grips without any real role models, without any real examples from the world around them about how to make a life like this and to be happy. And whether or not they're just doomed to half relationships, or to a certain extent just being lonely and being without romance. And it really provides a lot of great insight into that. There's a substantial afterward to the Persephone edition that I read, which really puts the book in context, and it argues that in some ways this is the first truly openly LGBTQ novel, and that may well be. Having said that, while it is clear that in the novel the characters desire and at least in one case achieve, at least briefly, gay relationships, lesbian relationships, there's no physical description of there's no description of physical intimacy in the book. The only description of physical intimacy that exists in the book is relatively tame descriptions of the relationship between the gay character and the lesbian character during their brief period in which they explored the idea of having a romance with one another. But the book is just extraordinary, and it's a book I think should be more widely read, and I'm really happy that I picked it up. In addition to that, I've been reading Maurice by E.M. Forster. I said last week that I've been having a really hard time getting into this. I may have implied that Maurice as a character really didn't appeal to me, and I will say that in the 70 pages I read this week, my compassion for Maurice and my kind of love for that character has done nothing but grow. And at the beginning, he's almost like a blank where there's nothing there and there's nothing to grab onto, and what there is doesn't seem to be very attractive. And as we go on, he changes. And empathy for him grows. Now, this again is a book I chose for Pride Month because Maurice is a novel about a gay man and his struggle to find love and romance, acceptance, and to figure out how to live his life, set during the same time period as Despised and Rejected. But I have been enjoying that much more. I hope to finish it sometime this week, and then maybe do a review of it sometime next week. So there's that. I've also been engaged in a number of buddy reads. I am buddy reading No Modernism Without Lesbians by Diana Souhami with Stephanie Cohen, commenter extraordinaire, good booktuber here, and this book is just right in my wheelhouse. I love the modernist period in the arts. And this book kind of explains the important role that four lesbian women played in promoting and creating that modernist movement. So it's kind of a group biography. It's divided into 4 sections. There's a section on Sylvia Beach. There's a section on Breyer, who I had never heard of, knew nothing about. There's a section on Natalie Barney, and there's a section on Gertrude Stein. I have a check-in with Stephanie on Sunday, so I don't want to say a whole lot more than that. Other than that, I'm just really enjoying the book. I'm really enjoying the buddy read and the insights and getting exchanged thoughts with Stephanie, and so that's just been really great. I'm also participating in a buddy read of Detransition Baby by Torey Peters with Marc Nash, with Roz from Scally Danley about the books, and with Sina from Beating Around the Books, and that buddy read has been great, and I have been enjoying Detransition Baby. I don't think it's perfect, but there are elements to it that I really, really like, and our buddy read has just been extraordinary. If you saw Mark's Friday Reads video, he talked about how long, how kind of in-depth and long our discussions have been up to this point, and that's just been really, really enjoyable. And then also, you should know, if you watch my channel, that Jack the Rambling Raconteur and I are doing a 3-month buddy read of the USA trilogy by John Dos Passos. And this month we are about halfway, or 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way, get my fraction right, 3/4 of the way through the second of those novels, which is 1919. It's been a bit of a slog. If you watch my video about the USA trilogy as kind of a modernist classic, you would know that there are 4 different kinds of sections in the book, and the narrative sections where, you know, Dos Passos is just telling a narrative story about characters and what they get up to, that has become, that section has become kind of a slog in 1919, and there's one character who I really would prefer not to read any more about at this point, but I know he comes back up. But that's been enjoyable. Getting to read with Jack is great. So yeah, I think is that all my reads? Yes, that's all the books I'm reading right now. Unusually for me, I've been out working in the flower beds. The mornings when it's cool enough, the last few days, removing a stump and kind of straightening out the flower bed lines. I know I could never be an English property owner because I hate to garden. I don't enjoy it at all. I don't know, maybe do Scottish people hate gardening? I don't know, but I certainly dislike it. But it's you know, it's something I've done, so I'm going to leave some pictures here and hopefully be able to kind of highlight where the stump I dug out of the ground used to be, and I may even include a photograph of my one stump-related removing injury. But those pictures will be right here. Also, last week I got back in the habit of linking to music videos for music that I like, and in the show card I called this Angry Music. I have a Spotify playlist which I just call Angry on my phone, and I listen to it, and it's a lot of loud, angry, shouty music, which helps me get the dishes done. And since I did prog rock last week with Yes, one of my favorite 60s, 70s, 80s prog rock bands, I thought I'd bring us into the 90s and the early 2000s with prog rock, and I'd leave links to 3 T.O.O.L songs down below, T.O.O.L being my favorite prog rock band that's still around. They put an album out I think last year. And leave 3 of those songs. Now just be warned, there's bad language, it's loud. These are not particularly deep cuts. If you're a T.O.O.L fan, you probably could guess some of the songs would be on the list, but I thought I'd leave that there for you if you're feeling, you know, frustrated and angry and, you know, want to hear some angry sounding music. Then it's down there for you. Anyway, look forward to your comments about my books, my gardening, my musical taste, Juneteenth. I look forward to those comments in the comment section down below, and as always, thank you for watching.